What's up, YouTube? Zioku here, and today we're going to be going over my personal tier list. I came up with this tier list with help and support from some of the community members, varying from free-to-play to not free-to-play, but very data-driven players. You can find this tier list on the Glossary. The Glossary is something that I initially created, but now it is being updated with support from those community members who helped me with the tier list. They include Aurora, free-to-play monster. I mean, just absolutely crazy at the game. Jen, another free-to-play monster. 400 D-Tides. They've been doing 400 D-Tides for months. Lens, fantastic player. Not free-to-play, similar to myself. Very data-driven. So damage calcs, seeing the numbers, seeing the statistics of how units are actually competing week over week over week in D-Tide. I think all of us do like to go through the list and just click on, random clears and see how many of X unit is on this list with X investment, as well as V, who is the community leader over at MyThag University, the Discord channel. If you haven't been to the Glossary, I created it to be of a guideline so you can see basic units, what wheels they might want, covenants, covenant stats, and some notes or alternatives in case you don't want to run or you don't have it available. Some of the wheels or covenants there. As of right now, as of recording this video, we have Chaos, Aquare, and Ultra completed. So all of those tabs have covenants, wheels, stats, and little note section. Caro, we are still working on. It has the wheels and covenants, but it doesn't include the stats, and the notes aren't as in-depth. But we also haven't gone through all of these units and really fine-tuned the wheels and covenants. That's coming soon, hopefully within the next week or so. SSR wheels, this is just a glossary, basically, of all the wheels in the game, so you can see what stats they have, what their effects are, and go from there. SR plus R wheels, same thing. Covenants, where to find them. So most of them are story covenants, but some of them are unlocked by account level, and it will be in the shop. If you didn't know, some of the covenants, like Dream of Medicine, used to be level 63, but they recently dropped it, so it's level 58 now. If you didn't know that, good to know. Posse, same thing. It's just a list of where to find the posses and what they do, how to unlock them, etc. Upgrade materials, you can see here what each individual unit needs to upgrade them. Unit leveling, so this is to level them up. Skill leveling material, this is for leveling up their skills. Classification, if you ever wondered if a unit is a standard unit, Arc 1 unit, Arc 2 limited, or a welfare unit, I've got the list here. It's missing Machette, I'll add that after this video. Morimens terms, this is a glossary within the glossary, and most of this here I just ripped directly from in-game, so you can check out the different terms here. Whale support codes. This here is just a list of whale supports that I have on my personal account, so you can add them and use them as supports for any event in the future. With the glossary overview done, let's check out the tier list. As I said before, this tier list I did make myself with input and assistance from the community. I am open to suggestions. I am open to criticism. If you have evidence of your claims, please send it to me. I would love to see low clear units doing well in A5 D-Tides or some of the harder content. especially the standards that I would love to see, DPS focused Goliath, not Goliath being used as a support for G Murphy. And so if you have something like that, send it to me. I am open to criticism. I am open to adjusting it and recommending to other people. The two different tier lists here, the one on the left is limited units at Enlighten 3, standard units at Overexalt, so that is +4. The one over here on the right is limited units at Overexalt, standard units at +12. This one is if you really truly want to invest heavily in a unit, or you're okay with spending, you might be more comfortable, or this is more common. For most players, I think E3 is a good stopping point for a lot of units, and if you really like a unit and you want to overexalt them, then you can see how much that overexalt will affect their placement over here. So we'll start at the top. S plus Katigura. I don't think anybody in the community can really argue this. E3, her team comps can be 3 standard units from various factions. It could be Caro, Ultra, or Pure Chaos. You could be running Ramona, Tinkt, and Winkle, and you're still clearing content. She has a lot of flexibility. She's very self-reliant, which is why those 3 standards they do matter. You don't want to, run anti-synergy. Somebody maybe like Nymph, who is poison focused, wouldn't work particularly well with her. But as long as they have some synergies with Kath's game plan, she can use them and use them well. She is a unit where below E3, she's not really a unit. Her E3 makes her a lot more smooth to use, and really unlocks her full capability. So if she is on banner, I highly suggest her because of how much value you get out of her, and you don't need specific limited unit teammates. Some of these other units on the list, they really want X unit with X enlightened to be really good. We'll go down to the next unit, for example, G Hellet at E3, S tier, amazing damage. I mean, in Tide, A5 bosses, you're doing 1,000,000 damage, and then you also hit 1,000,000 bleed proc. But for G Hellet to be at her best, she really wants E2 thighs. And so if you don't have E2 thighs, her banner's not up, you can't pull for her, and you have E3 G Hellet, she's a lot weaker. She's still a good unit. Even at E3, she can normally clear the lower World 1, World 2, even some World 3s, depending on the World 3, without thighs. But she really shines when she has that support with her. So that means you need E3 G Hellet and E2 thighs. That's a total of 4, 5, 6, 7 limiteds, while Kath only needs E3 and then standards, which you can get or whatever. And she also doesn't have a specific support that she really likes. If you have Hamlin, great, you can use her with Hamlin. If you have thighs, she can use thighs. If you have Clem, she can go with Clem. So she's not tied down to one specific unit. Mouchette, for damage dealing, she doesn't even necessarily need E3. E2 is a good stopping point. I know I'm putting this video out the day before her banner ends, but if you happen to see it today and you want to pull for her because of what you see, E2 is a pretty good stopping point. E3 just does more damage. It doesn't change how she plays. G Hellet's E3, I would argue it does change how she plays. You are more consistently able to turn one set up your big damage turn. Without her E3, it's more luck based if you start off with your Crimson Shackles turn one. With Mouchette, her E3 just adds more damage. More damage is great. She's a damage dealer. That's all she does is deal damage and batteries herself up. But she does that damage very well, very consistently. And, like Kathy Gura, she can have several different team comps from different realms. Pure Chaos, Caro, and Ultra are all very, very good team comps. She also is synergistic with any unit that has a strike boost. So G Murphy, when she plays strike, she gets her 0 cost at Enlighten 3. And so that can help if you do Blue Mouchette with G Murphy as your support. You play that strike, you get a free card. Mouchette gets stronger. That free card is draw 2/2. You can utilize that to get more strikes or whatever for her combo. So anytime there is a unit, an Awakener in the game in the future that has a cool strike effect, whether it does draw something or gives free Aliamus, the next Awakener Zoo at E2 or E3, her strike can give Zoo herself an extra 15 Aliamus. There's synergy there, and so you can kind of utilize that. Her damage output is insane at E3. Again, turn 1, turn 2, even without taking a death resistance, you're hitting for several 100,000 damage. It's less damage than G Hellet would be doing. G Hellet also is a double-edged sword, so G Hellet hurts herself before she sets up her damage, but G Hellet also is one of the best healers in the game, so she has kind of offsets that. While Mouchette doesn't heal, she doesn't have a bleed, she just does big damage. If you have her with Lily's Wheel, that extra 100 plus shield every turn is pretty nice. If you're getting that shield every wave, every round, and there's 7 stages, maybe you do a total of 12 rounds, 1,200 shielding. That's not terrible, honestly, for a DPS. Caster, at E3, he's very, very powerful. He's a great shielder. He's a warden, so he provides a lot of shielding and sustain for your team. But he also can deal a lot of damage. The issue with Caster's damage is it's slow. It might be turn 20 before you finish the match, because you're building up those Onyx plumes, 1 plume every turn with your Exalt. Maybe every other turn you're exalting, every 3 turns if it's a bad, spread on your hand. You'll get, 3 plumes, and then once you get 15 plumes in your deck, then you play them all for big damage. And that just takes a long, long time to do, so he's slow. He's not bad. You probably, if he's your main DPS for the story, you're going to miss some of the star requirements for beating it within X amount of turns, but you'll do it safely. You won't have to worry about dying, which is really nice. But he's just slow. He is Ultra, and he doesn't synergize extremely well with other comps or with other realms. There is a Caro Agrippa realm with Caster that's quite good. It's still slow, but Agrippa gives alert, and permanent alert, and that increases his shields, so you're even safer which is just kind of a nice combo. And Agrippa is Caro, meaning embryos. You can feed him embryos for more exalts more often. He is really, really good, but would I recommend pulling him over Mouchette or Cath? Probably not. I would recommend pulling him over G. Hellet if you don't have thighs. If you already have thighs, then I would suggest G. Hellet over Castor. Pollux. Pollux is another kind of just pure damage dealer, similar to Mouchette. He's a selfish damage dealer on his burst turns. You're just basically utilizing his cards and using as much of his cards as you can. But the amount of damage he does is really high. And he has just crazy scaling. One thing to note with some of these Awakeners is not all of them necessarily have infinite, quote-unquote, scaling. But they don't necessarily need that with how many different multipliers they have. So Mouchette being Strike, her Strike final multiplier and final damage multiplier, and the fact that she hits 100 times per turn, that means Strength. If you have any type of Strength increasing effect, she has a lot of scaling in other ways than her cards say is basically infinite scaling. Pollux, he does keep bleeding and can do some insane bleed damage, but he doesn't scale off of really anything. You don't need strength on him. You don't need a ton of damage amp. His cards, they do what they do. Crit rate and crit damage is all you need really for him, which is a plus and a negative. That means when you're looking at your relics, you're not looking at things to try to make him scale. You're trying to look for utility relics that make exalting or using your posse or using your rouse more convenient in your relics. His damage is really good, but compared to his OE, he's not as good. But compared to the damage of the units in A tier, he is definitely a step above in terms of damage output that he can do. He is also, in my opinion, he is very reliant on limited Awakeners as a partner. Pollux does pair it well with his brother, Castor, but you can utilize a Caro team with thighs. Pollux and thighs are very well. There is an argument to be made, but Zeo, my thighs is glued to my G. Hellet. That's definitely a choice you can make. I own both G. Hellet and Pollux at Overexalt and thighs at E2. I think she's E3. But I personally choose to just play Pollux in my Tide comps and not G. Hellet. I find Pollux's playstyle more enjoyable. So I put thighs and ages with Pollux over G. Hellet. If you have Castor, you can do G. Hellet, thighs comp, Pollux, Castor comp, and that's 2 comps right there. If you have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 S tier units, you can kind of have a 5 D-Tide teams right there. Kathy Raw, team by yourself, G. Hellet with thighs, Mouchette. There are several workable teams with her, so she doesn't necessarily steal any of their supports here. Castor and Pollux together, because G. Hellet is with thighs. And then your 5th team, you use a whale support. And that whale support could be whatever you want. If you want it to be Cath, Pollux, Mouchette, G. Murphy, you want to use it as just a support because you have a 5th one, you can do that as well. Speaking of G. Murphy, we're starting down on the A tier. I think it's kind of a hot take, but if you've played G. Murphy at E3, it's not a hot take. Her DPS at E3 is not nearly as good as these 4 units. I think her DPS, her bursts aren't as good as probably a Pollux burst. She's just slightly below. It just feels so bad. Her arithmetic costs are so high. And if you are balancing that out with utilizing her 0 cost, you're getting a ton of sacrifice. And so if you're using the Lemurian team, which is G. Murphy and 3 other Lemurians, she's E3. The other Lemurians they're standard units for 2 of them. So let's say they're at least E3, if not OE. And you have Miriam at E2. Your damage is definitely going to be lacking. She can do it. She can definitely do it. I don't know if she can do A5s consistently at E3. Even like this week's A4. I would love to see an E3 Miriam with a fairly budget, like I said, E3 G Murphy with an E2 Miriam, E3 Miriam. A5, some of the ones like this week, I would love to see it. I just don't think, I haven't personally seen it, not saying that they don't exist, but it is a lot harder, and you need to be more reliant on luck with your relics and your cards. It's not as consistent. Salvador is really awesome, but he steals everything that G. Hellet wants. He wants thighs. He wants the Lone Seed Posse. So he wants the things that G. Hellet really wants. And G. Hellet, in my opinion, and opinions of others, just utilize those tools better than Salvador. But if you like Salvador, because he's old man vibes more than G. Hellet, he might be an S tier for you, because he can basically do the same thing that G. Hellet does, just slightly worse. It might take a little bit longer, but his damage output is good. His sustain is insane. Huge shields. He's just a little worse than G. Hellet, which is why he's a step down. Tywil. Oh, Tywil, how the mighty have fallen. When I first started this game, I think it was April, maybe March of last year, Tywil was, honestly, every Awakener above Tywil except for G. Hellet hadn't been released, which if none of those Awakeners were there, she would be right next to G. Hellet in S tier, but all those Awakeners are now there, and so they kind of pushed her down. At E3, her damage is, I would say it's luck reliant and random. It depends on your Exalt. You're only going to get 5 cards. With every new unit that gets released, her pool of cards that she can pick from gets bigger. A lot of the units are adding better and better cards, like G. Murphy. You pick 2 G. Murphy cards, those are great. But because the pool is getting bigger, it's harder to get those cards guaranteed in your hand. And Tywil really wants the Overexalt effect to dish out insane damage. She can dish out damage. It's just a lot weaker. Her best comp, not at E3, her best comp that I have seen is the pure comp. A lot of players are still using her in the pure version with Tywil, Karen, Hamelin, and Riker. And they are still seeing great success in A5s. You don't see her a lot in World 5 or World 4 anymore. She's kind of almost relegated to World 1 and World 2, unfortunately for Tywil. Corpusant. I love Corpusant. I love her aesthetics. I love the lightning damage. I just wish she was more. Even at E3, there's a lot of units below her, so she's definitely not bad. And with G Murphy, the G Murphy Corpusant team is really nice. It's just she's outclassed by the other units in the list here. And I could even see an argument if somebody put a gun to my head and pushed me and said, hey, put her in B tier. I could see myself doing that and even moving 24 up. But she does good damage. And she has weakness. Her shields are decent, but she wants a lot of stats. And she just wants a lot of investment to really do that. Her OE, as you can see, doesn't really change her position. If you just look a little to the right, she's still in A tier. So it doesn't make a lot of difference if you OE her, but just minor difference. 24. From what I understand, I'm not a 24 main, but from consulting the list and asking around, Poison 24, Blue 24 is still really relevant and still hits like a truck. But a Japanese miniature truck versus a semi-truck still hits hard if you get hit by it, but the enemies now have 1 million phase 1, 1.5 million phase 2, and the numbers that she's dealing just isn't scaling with the amount of health as well as like fortitude and stuff some of these enemies are getting. So the A1s, A2s, I've seen a lot of 24 clears, not a lot of A4 and A5 24 clears. Dorsane, he is the next unit here on the list. Dorsane, even with investment, he just doesn't do enough. His targeting is sometimes wonky. So if you're ready for your big damage, you have an embryo, maybe you're even using thighs, so you have a super embryo, exalt ready, but there's an ad with 2,000 HP and a 5,000 shield, and you just can't get over that 7,500 ad with your cards to utilize Door's big exalt on the boss. So a lot of times that can mess him up. And then even when he is doing that big damage, the amount he deals is not as much as a full combo from one of these monsters up here. And so he's good. For story purposes, you can fly through Arc 1 with him. A lot of his kit, like, you kill a bunch of ads, you get these free 0 cost, and then the boss comes back, then you use all these 0 costs. His kit is really great for story, but for the in-game content at E3, he definitely wants more and more investment to be a better unit. Tulu, I'm not going to go too much over Tulu DPS at E3. He also kind of wants his OE. Tulu is also the first Awakener, if you didn't know. Little fun fact, with Daffodil over here being the second limited Awakener. He does okay damage. His 4 cost is very expensive, but early game, you're clearing whole waves of mobs with it very, very early game. If not in blue stance, you just switch to red stance. Boom, they're dead. But once you get to late game, the hardest opponents in the game at late game are single target bosses with a ton of HP. Tulu just doesn't do enough damage as the main DPS there. I can honestly see him dropping down to C tier if he is your only DPS in the game, or not in the game, but on your comp. Tulu is better as like a sub DPS support role, where I've seen Tulu in a Corpusant team, where Corpusant is discarding Tulu's cards for the aftershock effect, so their tentacles are hitting and you're getting a ton of damage that way. Tulu with Miriam in the Morian team, very powerful. When you exalt all 4 of those Awakeners on the same turn, Tulu's extra multiplier there is just a huge benefit. But as an Awaker, DPS on his own, B tier, even C tier, I could see arguments be made. Daffodil she is currently B tier, but Shu hasn't dropped yet. Daffodil is able to apply poison, and an okay amount of poison. So it is possible that this video is already dated after Shu drops, and somebody finds a crazy Daffodil Shu combo where E3 Daffodil is poisoning the enemy for, 30, 40,000, and then Shu is proccing that for several 100,000, and that combo could be really good. For Arc 1, Daffodil is really good. The reason I don't... It's 31 minutes in and explain why I don't value Arc 1. But the reason I don't value Arc 1 is because most players beat Arc 1 within the first 2 weeks, maybe 2 months at most. But if you're still playing the game after you beat Arc 1, the rest of your time in game is Arc 2 content. So once you beat Arc 1, however long it takes you to beat, if you continue to play the game, you're only playing Arc 2 content, and Arc 3 most likely won't be here until next year. So for a full 12 months, you are going to be playing Arc 2. And that's why I don't value Arc 1 as much, as well as Arc 1 is the easiest arc. A lot of the relics are absolutely broken, especially with cursed relics, so they can make almost any comp shine with those different relics and just the ease of the enemies in Arc 1. If you're struggling in Arc 1, don't feel bad. You're a new player, you might not have all the kits and all of the mechanics down yet. I'm not saying, hey, it's 3 months and you're still in Arc 1, you suck. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying once you do beat Arc 1, however long you take, Arc 2 will be there and it will be longer, and Arc 2 is even more difficult. So I understand that Daffodil is very good at Arc 1 because counter and how she does counter is different. The counter cap isn't a thing in Arc 1 as it is in Arc 2. But in Arc 2 and the hardest contents in the game, there is a counter cap, and so Daffodil struggles there. If you like Daffodil and you like counter, she's a good pick. She's still viable. I still see her played. She's very reliant on enemies that hit a lot of times, so she can utilize that counter. I don't see a lot of Daffodils being pure, raw DPS numbers. Pikmin is mainly a support, but at E3, if you play 3-4 chromophages in a turn, if you're duping them with Thighs or Lone Seed or the Feast, it's a Banquet, something Feast Posse, and you have several chromophages, and there's an AoE mob, they deal good damage. If you get them to OE, you'll see over there at the OE limited DPS list, very, very good damage. Sorrel, I love Sorrel. I love Sorrel's design. I love any Awakener with kind of a machine gun effect, which is kind of why I like Mouchette. And by machine gun, I mean they hit 1,000 times in a turn, and Sorrel does that. At E3, she's just okay, decent damage, but she really shines at OE with a good team around her. I was hoping Zhu was going to be a Sorrel support, like just spawning 100 embryos just for Sorrel, but she's poison support, which is great. But Sorrel at E3 is just kind of on the weaker side. Wanda, she's a counter unit, and similar to Daffodil, if you get enemies who hit you for 4 times every turn, Wanda would be S+ tier. If every enemy hit you 4 times in a turn, and she can fully utilize her strength reduction, so you're taking 50 damage per hit or whatever, easy. Throw her up there. But enemies don't do that. They have turns where they don't hit you at all, so your counter doesn't matter. They have turns where they just do one big, massive hit. And she does have ways to alleviate that, but it's just still not enough. Arc 2 rule set with counter. She's good. You can play her, just like all of these other units, just not good enough. Arita, another unit. I love their design, just like Corpusant. I'm glad they're kind of in the same team because I love playing them together, but her damage output is just not enough. The utility that she does is pretty nice, and potentially, I don't think the Axiom buff is really going to make a difference at the +12, but it's a nice, just little tweak. Jenkins is in the exact same boat, and I would say even Uvosh is kind of in the same boat as Arita, where they deal decent damage, but it's just not enough. Unfortunately for Uvosh, but fortunately for Jenkins, Jenkins does still see a lot of play as a support. Jenkins' crit damage from her Exalt and her Rouse is team-wide, and it pairs really well with Caster. So you're not using Jenkins to proc Corrosion. I know a lot of new players are like, oh, Jenkins and Caster, you're using Jenkins to proc that Corrosion. It's a nice bonus to proc the Corrosion, but you really want that crit damage buff because all of Caster's plumes are crit after he rouses, and so that's just a ton of free damage. Lotan, I've seen Lotan clears, Lotan. I've seen their clears, but it takes a bit of investment, and at OE, probably not enough. +12, just so you have those extra stats for survivability and extra damage. Cassius, over here, I actually might move him up. There's a Cassius comp with Pikmin that does insane counter, and because Cassius's 3 cost lets your counter basically hit again, the cap isn't as harsh to Cassius as it is to other units, and he batteries himself up and applies vulnerable, so there's a lot going on for Cassius, where at OE/+12, I think I should move him up a little bit. Sangha, a little bit dated. Her shield and shield then do big damage, just can't keep up with modern health pools. An Arc 1 where she's doing, almost 100,000 damage per turn, great, but in Arc 2, you need to be doing more than that. The enemies have 2.5 million, maybe even more health, depending on how many phases they have. So if every turn you get 1,200 shield and apply weakness and do 100,000 damage, she would be just fine, but she can't consistently do that once her exalts start, stacking up. Liz, as a DPS, there are some viable comps. If you have her portrait, she probably moves up a tier in both of these. So Liz with portrait would be B tier. Liz with portrait would be A tier. But without her portrait, she just doesn't do enough damage. Maybe with Shu, sorry. But I doubt it. I don't think Liz plus Shu is going to be the meta poison comp. Riker at E3. It's random. He could, potentially be A tier if you get all the perfect god rolls. But I don't judge units based on hypothetical what ifs. It's just more data and statistics, and statistically you're not going to be getting perfect rolls every single time. So C tier as a DPS. But Riker is a great support. Crit damage, crit chance, vulnerable, strength up, drawing cards, picking cards out of your deck. Great. All great things. So if you like Riker, he's a great support. Keep using him as a support. Don't use him as your main damage dealer. G Ramona as a DPS. I heard that she is viable. Aurora, it was either Aurora or Jin, mentioned that they have seen both Ramona, do pretty well with damage. So, sometimes if you really want to play G Ramona, it can work. It just takes a little bit more investment, potentially in your other units or your wheels and covenants to make it work. Goliath, if you can find me clears with Goliath as the main DPS, I would love to see them. Again, ideally A4, A5, or a particularly hard, not A4, Wave 4, Wave 5, or particularly hard Wave 1, 2, where he's consistently clearing with, not a ton of support. I would love to see it. But from what I've seen, he's just not it, unfortunately. Even in Arc 1, towards the end of Arc 1, let's say Chapter 8, Chapter 9, he starts to fall off as a pure damage dealer as well. And then Ramona down here, same thing with G Ramona. I don't remember who told me, I'm pretty sure it was Jen, who told me that it's a common, I say common, but not that common DPS unit. So that is the E3 OE standard DPS tier list. I'll go over this just a little bit to see some units who move a little bit, but I'm going to do this much faster. I know it's a 42-minute video. I'm going to keep it under an hour because I'm going to blow through this next section. But I think that if you wanted to stop here, thank you for watching. I'm just going to go over what units kind of get the best benefits from being Overexalt. So we go over here. Kathy Gura, still S tier. Her Overexalt isn't really needed. Even if you have her Overexalt, you can just normal exalt with her every turn instead of Overexalt, and you'd be just fine. The thing with Kathy Gura, her Overexalt helps in two ways. It gives us a little bit more flame, which is fine. But it's the fact that you can hold more Aliamus because you have her Overexalt unlocked. So it's just that much easier to exalt every turn. While with E3, you can potentially be wasting Aliamus if you do a big defense and you get 40 Aliamus, 20 of it is wasted or whatever. But she's still just as strong, and she still doesn't need any limited Awakeners as her support. Pollux. Whew. E3 Pollux versus OE Pollux is almost night and day. I mean, he's S tier, so he's still very strong. But once you get him OE, if you're watching this week and you want to look at my D-Tide cleared, I did an A5 D-Tide with him at Overexalt, and 4 of the 5 turns that I cleared it in, I Overexalted. So turn 1, turn 2, which was Ultra Turn. Turn 3, the boss was phase changing, so I didn't need to Overexalt there. Turn 4 and turn 5, I Overexalted. So when you have him at OE and you play his rotation properly, you can Overexalt with him over and over and over, and you're dealing just insane amount of damage. If you want to shield with him, he can shield 600, 700 plus shields If you have him with thighs, you can probably shield for 1500 a turn if you had to. Just a completely different unit at Overexalt. G Murphy, same. She jumped up 2 tiers from A tier to S tier as a DPS. At Overexalt G Murphy, the amount of raw damage she does on her burst turns is just insane. It's definitely more than like Kathiga Raw in terms of raw burst damage, but Kathy has other things going for her. But I've seen her burst turns hit for 1 to 2 million raw damage, and then she has the exact number of sacrifice for the enemy. So you deal raw 1 to 2 million. If it phase change, great. The enemy phase change, they do their whole thing, start of their turn, before you deal damage again, you hit them with that sacrifice. So that's 4 million damage potentially. The difference between the two is just night and day. Caster, he just moved up a bit. He's a lot more consistent. He's a lot faster at clearing, where it might take 15 to 20 turns. It'll now take 8 to 12 turns to clear whatever you're trying to clear, whether it's D-Tide or the story. Much faster. Getting the 3 in hand is huge, and then he gets a bonus to his shields and his damage. So he clears faster because his damage is higher. Great. Mouchette doesn't move much. Her OE brings pretty much just utility. It can bring in a little bit of damage, but her Exalt isn't really doing a significant chunk of your damage to begin with. But her Overexalt brings in a stun, and that stun is definitely useful for phase changes or whatever, but it's not needed. And after you use her Overexalt, one of the nice things about her is you don't ever have to Overexalt again. You just normal exalt and you get kind of the same benefits. Her Overexalt doesn't give the strike bonus that it gives. It's not like it gives it more strike bonus. I do want to confirm that real quick. I'm 99% certain though. But of course, her Overexalt doesn't give more damage for your strikes. It's just more damage that the Exalt itself does. G-Hellet, another one of those Awakeners where Overexalt doesn't do a lot for her. She does more damage, but she doesn't need it to deal more damage. We got Mouchette over here. Hit count +1 for each death resistance, +1 additional hit count. That's for the Exalt itself. And then, you set the arithmetical cost of the next Shining Crush to 0. That's nice. It's more quality of life / support beneficial than it is, change how that unit plays, like Pollux and G Murphy. Their Overexalt changes how the unit plays. Tywill's OE is a huge step up. She goes from A tier to S tier and is just a significantly better unit in terms of DPS at OE. Her OE also gives her the option to pick out 10 cards instead of 5. As I said, you're getting more and more cards, so it's harder to find what you want. But with 10, it gives you a little bit more leniency. But even still, there's a lot of turns where I'm like, I don't want any of these. I guess I'll grab this for a future turn or whatever. G-Doll, wait a minute, she wasn't even over here. G-Doll as an E3 isn't a DPS dealer at all, really. But at Overexalt, 100%, her poison capabilities is huge. And with Shu coming out, I will probably pusher above Ty Will with Shoot when Shoot comes out. We'll see. We'll see. But it looks like it will be a good fit. Pikmin at Overexalt. Oh, if you haven't seen crazy Pikmin clears, I would try to find them if I were you. The amount of damage he can output. He can double Exalt because of his E3. And with that, the chance of you playing like 6, 7 chromophages in one turn is absolutely monstrous, as well as his other cards giving you the free relic, the free advanced relic, because he'll have his E2. It'll give you the embryo generation. His Overexalt is just nasty in terms of how much damage he can do. He's normally not necessarily the main. He is the main DPS, but he also supports your other main DPS being Cassius, which is why I want to kind of bump him up. But the two of them, even without Cassius, I really gotta learn how to pronounce his name, don't I? It's still a ton of damage. Sorrel, she moves up. Her Overexalt helps greatly with the extra damage that it helps deal. And the next 3 cards played, is it 3 or like 5? The next 3 command cards played take place 2 times. And then each time this Exalt dealt damage, she also heals a lot more. One of her skills already healed her. The 2 costs will already heal her. But now you have that healing on top of the Overexalt healing. So you can be down to basically nothing. You Overexalt with her, you play your cards, and now you're back up at the full. And so you can prepare for her next Overexalt while the boss is slowly whittling you down. Salvador, he pretty much does everything he needs to do at E2/E3. Overexalt just makes it easier for him to do what he needs to do. So he kind of just stays the same. 24 Overexalt, I believe it just does a lot more damage. That's not one that I'm 100% certain on, but from my understanding is 24 Overexalt just does more. Corpusant, Overexalt, they're both A tier, not a huge difference. Plus 12 for Arita. It gives her more stats. More stats is great. And she just really needed that more stats because you get 10 more levels, as well as the extra stats that the Enlightens give. For her, it's crit rate, which is nice. Alimus regen is not that important on her, but the crit rate is really well. And she was already rated at Overexalt over here. Now she's just plus 12. Overexalt for Dorasane. Getting his Overexalt off is not really likely. I think you probably can a couple times in a boss fight, but you're really just using the standard Exalt and you're enjoying the overflow that the having Overexalt gives you. It does do 100% final damage, but that final damage multiplier is the same as like any other final damage multiplier, so it is pretty strong. Tulu Overexalt, I still wouldn't use him as your main DPS, but he becomes a lot better as long as you have a team comp designed around increasing your tentacles. His Overexalt lets your tentacles hit even more. All tentacles attack twice at turn in. So if you have 20 tentacles, that's attacking 40 tentacles. So if you have a tentacle focused buffing team, then OE Tulu is just kind of insane there. Riker Overexalt, a little bit more damage. He's still not, A tier. He didn't get a huge glow up, but B to C, if you want to play Riker as a DPS and you have him at Overexalt, he's a lot easier and more consistent to do. as well as his utility, reducing the arithmetical cost of all the cards that you drew by 1. Pretty nice. Daffodil didn't move much. Clem, her face popped up. She wasn't here before. But with her Overexalt, you don't have to choose between the attack buff or the attack reduction debuff. You get both. So her Overexalt by itself does like 40,000 damage. And then since you have the attack amplification from her Overexalt, her other cards, you play the strike or you play the pain, the 3 cost pain extraction. They just do a lot more damage. Liz plus 12, the stats help her out, so she gets more stats, more damage. Again, if she has her personal relic in Arc 2, probably goes up 1 more. She is a lot better. Wanda, just a little bit more damage. Jenkins, no change, no change. And the rest of these are pretty much no change. Ramona becomes a little bit more viable because she has a little bit more stats. I have been playing, like I said, since April or March, and I don't have Ramona at plus 12 yet. So if you've been playing for over a year and you get bored and you want to test out what Ramona can do, then she's more capable at plus 12. But I have been Zioku. Thank you guys for watching. If you're wondering, hey, why are there no supports on this list? The support tier list is very complicated. I need to figure out how to make the list and it be fair to all Awakeners. Because some supports, they don't want their E3s or their Overexalts. They only want E1 or E2. And units like Tulu, who is a support, but also a DPS, and Pikmin, and the different Enlightens, a unit can be B tier at E1 and S tier at E2 or whatever. It's a lot more complicated. And you also don't want to invest too much in your supports. Horla, who's good at E0 and E1, they don't take a lot of your pools away like a G-Doll who you want Overexalt. So I'm still thinking of if I'll ever do a support tier list. We might not. We might. We'll see. If you have suggestions for how I should do a support tier list, please let me know. I would love to make this better than what it is. If I could have a really well done support tier list, I would. Some people have suggested have their face, but like the E1, E2, somewhere on there. That's a lot of editing in terms of editing the photos to add that, but I've done a lot of work for this game already. Maybe I'll do that and just put in a little bit more elbow grease into the support tier list. Again, thank you guys for watching so much. I hope you learned something. If you have any suggestions, criticisms, let me know. I'm open to it. And I hope you have a great day. Peace.